Watch the narcissist in action. Text Hoovers. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. The Hoover is the mainstay of activity by the narcissist. Many people think of the Hoover as where the narcissist draws you back into the relationship again, but there are lots of different types of Hoover, and you can read my book, Black Hole, which goes into greater detail about those different types of Hoover. The narcissist hoovers you at the outset of the relationship when you're being seduced, hoovering you again and again to interact with you. The narcissist hoovers you during the relationship, ringing you up, coming to see you, sending you messages. The narcissist, of course, hoovers other people in the fuel matrix, friends, family, by taking them off the shelf and interacting with them. Will hoover somebody they're having an affair with, again by taking them off the shelf. And where you're the intimate partner primary source, the narcissist may well hoover you after the demise of the relationship, sometimes to try and draw you back into that relationship and resurrect it, sometimes by way of a preventative hoover to stop you leaving in the first place, sometimes just to hoover you for the purpose of drawing fuel and to control you, but not to resurrect the relationship. Sometimes the hoovers will be benign, sometimes they will be malign. But the purpose of a hoover is in pursuit of the prime aims, namely, it is done for control, for fuel, and might also be done for character traits and residual benefits, but not always. When the narcissist rings you up and talks to you, he's doing so to assert control over you and draw fuel from you by way of that hoover. He might be criticizing you, he might be praising you. He may not be trying to get you to come back into the relationship, but is simply trying to control you in that instant. The hoover is the direct assertion of control, and therefore it is fundamental to understand that this is what the narcissism drives a narcissist to go towards in the first instance, essentially because we get double bubble. By hoovering you, we gain control over you, often quickly, and we get fuel into the bargain. Therefore, for the economy of effort, our narcissism drives us to always look at hoovering you as the starting point. Sometimes the hoover can't happen, or hasn't succeeded, in which case the narcissist then moves to the indirect, or the withdrawal, with regard to achieving control. Hoovers happen again and again and again. And if you want to know how to stop them, go to the Knowledge Vault and obtain How to Stop the Hoovers. Hoovers come in lots of different shapes and sizes, different forms, and for different reasons, different pretexts. But they're all about getting to the prime aims. Yesterday, I provided an excellent video, Watch the Narcissist in Action, which was a video analysis of an argument, or rather a tirade, that took place between a narcissist and his intimate partner primary source victim. Many of you found that extremely useful in understanding the nature of the dynamic between the two, understanding more about the types of manipulations, and also as an example of a particular subschool of narcissist. If you haven't already watched that video, I would encourage you to do so to get more of the flavour of the two individuals involved. It's easily found in my recent uploads. Also, I'm going to tell you what I believe the status of the narcissist is by way of subschool. If you don't want to know that, I suggest you pause this video now to avoid the spoiler. The narcissist concerned is a lower mid-range narcissist, and I'm going to provide you now with more context to the relationship. The narcissist is called Mike, and I deem that he's likely to be a lower mid-range narcissist based on the information that I have seen. I've explained in the video of yesterday why I reached that view. He lives rent-free with his intimate partner primary source. She is called Rose. They have 2 small children who are both girls. Mike can't hold down a job. He doesn't contribute financially to the rent or to the bills, which of course demonstrates his sense of entitlement to live there rent-free and a lack of accountability as a consequence of his failure to provide financially. Rose supports the family financially. In order to do this, she works full-time, 5 days a week, minimum. To save much-needed money with regard to childcare, Rose asks the narcissist to contribute by watching their children when she goes out to work. Not an unreasonable request, you would think. It's also worth knowing that the narcissist has had at least 2 affairs, commission of infidelity, absence of emotional empathy, sense of entitlement, that the intimate partner primary source knows of. He also resents looking after the children. He's unreliable and often fails to show up to look after them. Rose then interviews various babysitters in order to try and get some child cover, but of course the narcissist rejects each one in order to prevent another person coming into the home and allowing Rose to stay at work. Rose working will threaten the control of the narcissist in several ways. She's not at home when he is, which means he doesn't know what she's actually doing. Of course she's working, but his paranoia will tell him that she's up to no good, that she's having affairs, that she's sleeping with other people, and therefore his control is threatened. Thus, he wants her at home, but of course, he needs to be supported. So he has this dichotomy of, I want her where I can see her, but that necessitates reducing financial support, and he's not prepared to go and do that. Instead, he pressures her to go part-time, meaning that she will still work, still provide some financial provision, and so she will also be seen. To keep her in that situation, he rejects the childminders so that she's forced to be involved in looking after the children also, and to stop her remaining in full-time employment. Rose, however, can't go part-time because she's the one that's holding up the financial burden for the family. She knows she can't rely on him to make up the financial shortfall. That's the scenario the victim finds herself in. That's the scenario that the victim has with this individual. I'm now going to take you through a succession of text messages that has been sent by Mike to Rose to help you understand more of the way that the narcissist behaves. I'm going to provide you with the analysis explaining what it all means so that you gain a greater understanding and so that you're able to watch the narcissist in action. Here come the text messages. These are all texts that are being sent by the narcissist. You'll see at the top that there is a picture of him. I've deliberately omitted his face for privacy reasons, but you can see that the shot that's used is a bare-chested one, which points to perhaps him likely being a somatic narcissist, that he uses a topless shot as the avatar for his symbol. We have a lot of work to do, and I'm not raising one finger until you sign proof I live here. Use of threat to assert control over the victim. I refuse to get kicked out again, and cops called. Pity play. You've kicked me out before and that wasn't fair. If it ever happens, I'll never speak to you or even look at you again. I will replace you. Use of threat to assert control. I can do most of it myself in record timing. I suspect that he's referring to domestic duties, that he has a high and inflated opinion of his abilities so that he can show her that he's the one that can get things done. But only if I'm rewarded for my work and time, not dollars, but guaranteed, note misspelt, proof that I live here full time and cannot just be kicked out by, misspelt, any cop or bullshit or locked out. So here you have an individual who has an inflated sense of his own abilities, who is seeking the residual benefit of being signed to live at the property, which makes it harder then, of course, to remove him. His narcissism is directing him to seek that because it's a residual benefit, and it's causing him to utilize the manipulation of text messages, hoovering his partner by suggesting there are things that need to be done, but you need to put me on the property, and if you try and kick me out, then I'm never going to speak to you. I'm never going to look at you again. Repeated use of threat to get that control. The next set of texts, you scarring, although I think he means scaring, Zoe, which is the child, and hurting your baby inside you. She's evidently pregnant at this time. You let niggers in the house while I was gone. Demonstrating that this individual is racially prejudiced, which shows an absence of emotional empathy, and the fact that he utilizes that in a smearing way as against his partner. You have his number. I think the suggestion there is that she's cheating and that she has the number. Your dad gave you it. I'm not dumb. He's going to cut your grass if I don't. Remember. There is the suggestion of threat, namely, I should be the one cutting you the grass, but if that doesn't happen, you've got a handyman's name or a gardener's number, and the suggestion is that she's having some kind of liaison with that individual. Triangulation. Did you forget that part or want to lie? False accusation. I mean, you get to lie, but I don't. That's fucked, yo. You will regret all of this. Victim mentality and false accusation suggesting, oh, you're the liar, but I'm not allowed to. Okay, that's all right. That's fucked up, actually. You will see from the tone of this individual that the level of English comprehension is fairly poor. This did cause some people to consider that he might be a lesser narcissist. However, it was evident from the video that the individual concerned does operate a facade, not a particularly good one, but still does, to the outside world, which would prohibit him being a lesser. He's a lower mid-range narcissist, but doesn't have a particularly high cognitive function, as evidenced by the fact that his grammar is not particularly good, his spelling is not particularly good, and that he's racially prejudiced in the way that he utilizes that particular comment. Again, notice that there's no response from the victim to all of this. It might be that she's busy working, or she's simply ignoring him. If she's either way, his failure to respond, the failure on her part to respond, continues to threaten his sense of control and is causing repeated minor wounding. The wounding is minor because it's a text interaction. They're text hoovers. The amount of fuel that he would receive from her were she to respond would be limited because it's the written word. That's the smallest amount of fuel that can be provided. Accordingly, it also follows that because that's the smallest amount of fuel that can be provided, that when the victim fails to respond to a text hoover, the wounding is only minor in nature. Thus, he gets wounded slightly, and his narcissism then compels him to try and seek control over her again directly. Thus, he texts her. Again, there's no response, minor wounding. He doesn't have control. The narcissism compels him, through heated, ignited fury, to text again, and again, and again. He keeps getting minor wounding, but it's not sufficient to cause him to stop, because it's only minor in nature. His narcissism keeps on driving him to hoover her, because it's easy for him to do so. He can keep sending text messages, which of course is why it's always so important to ensure that as part of your no-contact regime, you close down any electronic avenues between you and the narcissist. Further text hoovers that are coming from the narcissist. Saw you walk and look at those black guys. False accusation, triangulation. The suggestion here is that she is looking at black men, and clearly he doesn't like black people. This is the second time that he's made a racially charged observation. He's suggesting that she's flirting. Now, it's not the case that she's not doing this, and he knows she's not doing it, but he says it anyway. But rather that his narcissism tells him this has actually happened. In order to assert control over her, his narcissism needs to come up with something to compel him to be driven to want to assert control over her. He doesn't understand it as that need for control. Thus it ignites his heated fury, so he becomes agitated and angry. that is this fury that appears, and that's why you get the incessant text message with the insults and with the malign triangulation, with the false accusations. His paranoia tells him she was looking at those black guys that she walked past. He continues, and you choose that door instead of 4 like you usually choose. You might think, what the hell does that matter which door she goes through? But again, there is a suggestion that she's chosen an alternative door because she's up to no good. You're pregnate, misspelt notice, and have HPV, LOL, insult. I'm not worried, but calling you out. Well, he obviously is, otherwise why is he getting in such a panic about her apparently looking at those black guys and that she's got HPV, etc. This time the victim responds, Mike, I've gone into 2 the last week, you've duped me off, I think she means dropped me off, and we stopped right by 2 because it was the empty door. What the fuck does it matter which door she goes through? But this is what happens with victims. They are compelled to explain minutiae because the narcissist demands it of them. That by picking up on something trivial, rather than the victim go, that's preposterous, I don't know what he's going on about, I'll just ignore it. She feels compelled, as a consequence of her truth-seeker trait, to explain herself, even in relation to minutiae such as which door she has gone through. The narcissist writes, in the morning and gets here, I'm getting spare key if you don't give me mine back. And I'm gone, use of threat. I'm going to fuck the shit out of beautiful women every day. Triangulation, use of threat. Anything happens to my truck and Kevin will look at it to you're going to jail. Bitch. Insult, use of threat. Send my dad, grandparents, everything. Demand. I'm never going to see them or go over to my dad's ever again, so I don't care. I'm making dating site. Triangulation, threat. Give me my keys back. Demand. And I won't. 5 seconds to respond. Thus here, increasingly agitated because there's a failure to respond by the victim, causing repeated wounding, he's repeatedly triangulating and threatening, suggesting that he's going to go and find somebody else unless she provides the key. The key, of course, is a residual benefit and would denote control, and he's demanding that this be provided to him as he continues to text Hoover, the victim. I'm so pissed you left me stranded without my property and keys to my own vehicular. Again, poor spelling on his part. Demonstrating the exhibition of his fury. It's over. Threat and loss. I'm seeing other woman. Triangulation. And replacing you. Threat and loss. Go to hell. Run away to your mummy. Commit suicide. Naturally, suicide. All throughout this, there is a complete absence of emotional empathy with all of the various rudimentary manipulations that he's utilizing, all commensurate with the heated, ignited fury that would be experienced with a lower mid-range narcissist. That he repeatedly sends these messages in order to provoke the victim into responding, but she fails to do so, either because she's busy elsewhere, or she's actively ignoring him. Either way, the effect is the same. It causes repeated minor wounding and continues to threaten his control. Here, the victim responds, that's as far as I'll go. He states, then call in today, or give me money to buy lunch. Demand residual benefit. It's a public place, responds the victim, and I'll come home. You stole my money from my wallet. Theft, sense of entitlement, lack of boundary recognition, absence of emotional empathy. Give me money to buy lunch and I'll come home, otherwise call in. What he appears to be doing here is he's absented himself from the family home as a means of blackmailing her to have him buy lunch. And he's saying, if you don't buy me lunch, then you're going to have to call in sick, I would imagine, or say that you can't attend because you've got to look after the children. So he is showing an absence of emotional empathy for the victim in treating her in this way, putting a wedge between her and work. He's triangulating her with her work and her children so that she has to either give in to him and give him what he wants so she can go off to work, or she has to turn work down to look after the children because he's absented himself from the family home. PSH, you just text me over and over, tell me you're moving on. That strikes me likely to be a revision of history, because the text history demonstrates that it's him that's doing all of the hoovering by text. Again, just to piss me off, victim mentality, and get me worked up. You're the perpetrator, he's saying to the victim, and you think you're not the problem. This demonstrates how, although all of the texts show that he's the problem, his narcissism blinds him completely to his own behaviour, and he is utterly convinced that she is the issue, hence why he texts as he does. The victim responds, I'm saying that because you cheated. Again, infidelity, lack of emotional empathy, challenge fuel issued. You just keep going in circles, projection, because actually that's what he does. I tried to come up with solutions, I'm the fair person in all of this, to prevent this happening again. But you don't like them or want them. You want to go to guys' houses, false accusation. What do you want me to say or do? Tell me and I will. And you keep trying to say it's my fault you cheated, which is typical of the narcissist, that you made me cheat. Challenge fuel. Fuck's sake, kid, goddamn. Well, in my opinion, it is. So he maintains that it's her fault that he cheated. I want you to be faithful. Challenge fuel. Maybe not yours or your dumb mum's, but mine it is. I will be once you do what I want. You're not going to sit here on face of the earth and ask for shit and not give what I want. Do not fuck with me. Again, this demonstrates his lower mid-range status in terms of low cognitive function, but also this paradox of where he sees himself as a kind and decent person who's being mistreated, but also he wants to be seen as this kind of tough guy who says, you don't fuck with me and you better do what I want. That is very much the behaviour of a lower mid-range narcissist, the sort of niceness of the mid-ranger combined with the toughness of the lesser narcissist. A further text, Hoover, you better come straight home. Demand and threat. If you don't, we are done. You fucking bitch, you hear. Use of threat. The fact that she's elsewhere threatens his sense of control, so he starts hoovering her to get her to come back. And stop sending old shit, you fucking bitch. Insult. Come home, watch your daughter. I have work for you hours. If you a minute fucking late, we are done. Notice again the laying down of deadlines by him as his rage continues. So do not fuck with me. Again, the I'm a tough man. I'm sick of this shit. Your shit. I hate this life. I lose every day. Rot in hell. I'm seeing other women as of tomorrow. Use of threat, triangulation. I'm not waste, misspelled, any more of my life and time on your sorry ass. You want to take my kids? Dine. Do it. You evil whore. Commit suicide or something. You can tell here that his rage has increased as a consequence of the fact that she's away from the home, which is threatening his sense of control, and she's not responding to his messages, that he's sending them over and over and over and over. Her failure to respond wounds him, but it's not enough to deter him from sending further messages, and his heated, ignited fury is rampant at this juncture. You can almost picture him sat there, or pacing around at home, cursing out loud, punching the phone, hitting the buttons as he sent these messages over and over, triangulating her, insulting her, and threatening her. This set of text hoovers show a slightly different tack. One thing that wasn't apparent from the provision of these texts is whether they all took place on the same occasion. I think they're probably on different occasions where the victim is giving a flavour of the behaviour that she's been subjected to. Again, for context, the victim has made these screenshots of the text messages freely available, and I'm just utilising them as teaching material for you. This isn't a client of mine. This isn't somebody that has sought advice from me, but is somebody that has been involved in a relationship with a narcissist and recognises that she was in an abusive relationship and has shared this material with the wider world, which provides me with an opportunity to utilise it to help you understand more about the dynamic. On this occasion, the individual who is the narcissist writes, is Zoe current on her shots? Triangulation with child. There is a measles outbreak in St. Paul, and if she were to get the measles, she could die. Threatened loss. There may not be a measles outbreak. This may be a revision of history, or if it is true, it's the utilization of the truth to try and worry the victim by triangulating her with the child and the child's health. Devin just had to get an extra shot for this outbreak. Make sure he's vaccinated. Notice this is the mid-range behaviour here, the cognitive empathy for the children in terms of ensuring that they have their shots. Zoe may need to be seen by a doctor ASAP. Her fever is 102 after 2 hours, I think that should read, on Tylenol. She only has 1 kidney. That is dangerous. What's being done here is that there's triangulation with the child, and undoubtedly it's being done to try and cause the victim to come away from work and attend to the needs of the narcissist. It's being done to get her under control because when she's at work, he doesn't feel that he has control of her. You need to leave work and take her to the doctor. You left Mike at home with no gas to take her to the doctor. Here he's referring to himself in the third person. And why can't he take her? Well, he says he's got no gas. That may not be accurate. Your baby needs you to get her to the doctor. Why doesn't he do it? Of course, sense of entitlement, and he needs to bring her under control. She is really sick. If you don't call Mike in 3 minutes, I'm going to have to call him. But this is all sent from Mike's phone, so it looks like he's pretending to be somebody else in order to compel her to take it seriously. It's again a fairly rudimentary manipulation on his part, and it's all various Hoovers to try and utilize a child and a child's health to assert control over her by pulling her away from work. There is a selection of repeated Hoovers from this particular narcissist, which gives you a real flavour of the lower mid-ranger in action, all done to try and get the intimate partner primary source under control, that is repeatedly wounded by her failure to respond, or where she does respond, intermittently, it's challenge fuel. Excellent examples of this particular dynamic. I'm going to provide you with more in relation to this individual as we see a shift in tack, where we see that he utilises pity plays and promised change, showing more mid-range aspects of being the lower mid-ranger. Join me there for further enlightenment.